Greg Pak and Jay Lee give us a brand new series of Batman Superman #1.
We have a brand new Image title from Greg Rucka with Lazarus #1.
And Keith Giffen gives us the title that we've all been waiting for, Larfleeze #1. Okay, so 6 months ago, I was introduced to the work of Jay Lee through the Before Watchmen Ozymandias, which I believe JMS wrote and he drew. I didn't love the story, but the art was just stunning. I was like, who is this guy?
Those covers were...
Why isn't he writing more? Give me more of that in my eye holes. And so when this was announced, I haven't read a Batman Superman book in a long time.
Yep.
I was in like, Jim, how did you feel about it?
I've only ever read one Batman Superman crossover before, and that was World Finest, which I talked about ages ago on what we've been reading. And yeah, like we've kind of been on and off with Superman recently. You know, we had Adventures of Superman, which was great, and Unchained, which was not so. And this was fantastic. As you mentioned before, the artwork in this book is absolutely outstanding. There's one particular splash page that's the kind of the title card, and on one side of it you've got the Superman origin, and on the other side you've got the Batman origin, and the way that it's kind of laid out and stuff is absolutely fantastic. He really captures kind of the essence of both of these characters and their individuality, whilst finding a common ground as well. You know, you've got the really bright with Superman, the dark with Batman, but he really does make it work together. The writing, I really enjoyed. I liked the direction they were going with. Part of me really enjoyed having Catwoman as the kind of villain in that. However, the second that changed over to whatever it changed over to in the last 5 pages of the book, I don't know how keen I was on that. In fact, I got very lost with this book in the last 5 pages or so. It just kind of starts going all crazy. You have no idea what's happening, and it is the kind of leaves you on a cliffhanger. It's not the best type of cliffhanger because it felt like there was elements of the storytelling that were kind of broken, but overall, I'd say this book was really good and definitely worth picking up. And it's one of the better new #1s from DC recently. Dan?
Literally since we started this show, I have just never ever agreed with you more. Like your review, your review, word for word, is exactly how I feel.
Yeah.
It was stunning, beautiful book.
That page.
I could just stare at it without reading the words again and again and again. It was stunning.
Oh, and the Batman introduction where he comes in and he's got the jetpack on though. I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, even if my 8-year-old cousin was writing it, I'd still be buying this book. Maybe even more so. No, no, it was stunning, so beautiful. Like, I want all of that art on my walls. It's worth buying just for that.
Yeah, definitely.
The first 2/3 of this book, really well written. I was into it. I wanted more. I liked the fact that we were getting this origin and them two meeting and all of that because, as I say, that's been done before, but it's been a while since I've had it, so I was happy for it to happen again.
True.
Last third, I just didn't care about where that was going, and I was just like, oh.
It's not that I didn't care, it's that I was flicking back, going, sorry, did I miss something? Why is he back in the jeans and the boots?
You know what it felt like? It felt like, oh, well, all this is fine, but we need something really different and crazy. Sometimes you don't need different and crazy.
I don't at all.
Sometimes you just want them to tell a story that they were just going to tell. So that is a bit of a shame. There's no way I'm not picking up this trade. No way, just because it's so beautiful. So I feel exactly the same way as you do. I'm not sure about the direction that they're probably going to take it.
Hope it goes somewhere.
Hope it goes. Yeah, exactly. I have the best of hopes for it. But this artwork, just beautiful.
Yep. Okay, so the next book we're going to talk about is a new Image title from Greg Rucka, who is famous for his work on The Punisher and Wolverine and Gotham Central he also wrote, which was really critically acclaimed. And Lazarus is kind of... It's the story of world segregation based around financial means, and certain, I think it's like 8 families run the world, and then they have people working for them, and then everyone else is expendable, basically. And in each family, there's a member of it who looks after everyone, who's the kind of ninja guardian protector called the Lazarus. The muscle of the family, yeah, who just gets everything done. And that's the Lazarus, and that's who we see this story through. Her name is Eve, I want to say.
Her name is Forever, isn't it?
Yeah,
Eve
I think
Forever?
people call
Forever
her
Eve?
but something like that. And yeah, we see the story through her eyes.
Oh yeah, because Eve would be short for forever, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Oh. I just got that now.
Yeah. What did you think of Lazarus?
Well, this is a weird one because this felt so short. It felt like it was over so quickly because there were literally like 2 scenes that happen.
Yeah.
There's the scene, the opening scene, and then another scene, and then that's sort of it.
Yeah. That did feel short, actually.
So it's a really strange one to review because everything was solid.
Yeah.
For me. The art was solid. The writing was solid. The premise was solid. I am interested to know what happens, but at the same time, like, I don't really feel qualified to judge anything because, you know, unlike Batman Superman, where you can sort of, there are things happening and you can sort of see the direction things are going and you can make inferences from that. This, I felt like, yeah, this was a great sort of opening, small, like a prologue even, and it could veer off into something awful from here, or it could go on to something great, like the really meat and bone that's not in this issue. So
Dan has a bit of a cough.
So solid, great art, you know, good story. It's something I've never noticed before. This premise is something I've never heard before. So just ticks all the boxes, but who knows? Could be good, could be bad going forward.
Yeah, this kind of premise, the kind of world being split up financially, it's an odd one because in kind of media, we go through phases of different types of stories. You know, during the 1940s, 1950s, when nuclear threats were on the rise, you know, stories like Godzilla were really popular in most mediums, and then you get, you know, the classic zombie stories, which is all about the fear of technology and that we're being brainwashed and things like that. And, you know, you get the same with the Frankensteins and the vampires and stuff. And I feel as though this year's big hot one is going to be kind of, you know, the 1% type of scenarios and the 99%, you know. Later on this year, you've got the film Elysium coming out by Neil Blomkamp. And that seems like a very similar premise almost with the kind of divide in societies. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing to use that. It feels very on the nose to what you're kind of trying to say. And I prefer a little bit more subtlety with my books when they're trying to have messages. But, you know, other than that, I think the artwork was solid. The story was just A-okay. And I agree with you. It's
Dale's cultural history.
Can that be my little jingle?
Yeah.
Yay! So yeah, it was a solid title, but I do agree with you. There's not enough kind of meat
It's
there
just
yet.
sort of all right.
Cool.
Yeah.
A lot of wasted space at the back with all the kind of.
Yeah.
I mean that took up a good 6 pages.
Sometimes
or so.
I like that if I'm really invested in a story, but if I really have nothing to go on, then I don't care about all this stuff.
I mean I barely read that anyway, but whatever. Okay, so the last book,
Larfleeze, as I alluded to in the introduction, the one that everyone, I'm being a little sarcastic, but like
little,
dripping with it.
Basically jumped into a pool of sarcasm, gotten out, and you have
like a UV
off.
light. If we had like a sarcasm light, I'd be soaked.
Just fucking yeah.
If it showed up orange,
sarcasm.
But no, I mean, I don't have anything against it at all by any means. It's just that no one was asking for this.
Okay.
And so I went into it I don't even read Green Lantern, so I'm going into this thinking.
Did you know who he was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I read Blackest Night.
Right.
So I'm going into this thinking, this is not something I'm going to be in any way interested in whatsoever. Yeah. So Sometimes that can help, though. Low expectations can help. So, what were your expectations like for this, and how were they?
Well, for me, I think my expectations were a little higher than yours because rude mid-sentence, and he does that. My expectations were a bit higher than yours because Keith Giffen, I know from Lobo, Portrait of a Pastiche, which is one of my favorite graphic novels.
Which comic, sort of comic, and this is going for a sort of comic thing. So,
and you know, Larfleeze is a character I like. He's really instrumental in the Agent Orange book. That's kind of his story. And I'm with you. This isn't a book that I've necessarily been screaming out for and going, DC has to make this. But my God, did I enjoy this book. This book was probably my favorite book that I've read this week. I thought it was absolutely outstanding. It was so funny. It was so funny without crossing into the lines of, all right, this is just ridiculous, you know. The whole, did I ever tell you about my origins? And he's like, I don't want to know. We're hurtling towards Steph. He's like, no. I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you because you need to hear about Larfleeze. I loved all of that. The whole idea of him now being his own power source, I think is very clever because it works with the kind of Orange Lantern idea.
It works with his greed. Like, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think for a book that literally has 2 characters in it, they use it so well. It seems rude. It just fulfilled so many different, comic book needs. I don't think are being fulfilled right now. You know, I don't think there's a very good comical book out there. And yeah, it also had very good action in there. And it had a bit of heart. What were you gonna list off as?
The 2 that came to mind were Wolverine, the X-Men, and Young Avengers.
I'm not reading either of them. I will be picking them up in trade, but no, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and I will be continuing to read it. However, I think that you might be on the other side of the fence.
No, I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah.
My expectations were sort of here, and the book was sort of here. So
well, that's good.
That's good.
Shame your expectations were like kind of down there.
Yeah. The thing was, like, I saw.
I like that was a laugh and cough at the same time.
I just get it.
It was like I'm just gonna try and sneak it out.
Yeah. Right. What am I saying?
Expectations.
The first couple of pages, I was like, "Oh, I see." I got it then.
Yeah.
Because he's quite a funny character in Blackest Night, and the premise that they set up and how they would and where the comedy would come from.
Yeah.
Like, I got it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, this could actually be good. But then ultimately the comedy sort of fell flat. It fell quite short of that promise for me, and I didn't find it too funny, and it dragged. There's a lot of words in this, and it sort of dragged for me, and it was like, and it was kind of the same joke over and over again for me. So, I feel like there's definitely potential, and I think if you read this series, if you're gonna read this series week in, week out, you are gonna have laughs, from time to time.
Yeah.
But for me, ultimately, the actual comedy fell short of the promise of where it could be. It wasn't bad. It definitely.
You can, while he's coughing, you can read it without reading Green Lantern.
Absolutely. It doesn't give a shit about Green Lantern. It doesn't.
And I'm sure that was the same with Red Lantern, which I never got into because it seemed kind of.
Because why would you buy a book for $2.99 that's about Atrocitus?
Yeah, that's about being angry. It doesn't sound fun. Whereas this, it's.
I feel like it's DC's Deadpool, except without the breaking the fourth wall.
I mean,
we're out for laughs.
Yeah. It's a book completely out for laughs. I mean, I love the whole scene with his companion that he has, and he's like, no, you will die with me. You're mine. And he's like, I'm with you. And he's like, no, you're mine. He's like, oh, it's good to know I'm an object, not a person. And he's like, well, yeah, that's why else did I grab you? Loved all that. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'll be picking it up again.
Cool. Fun.
Fun times. Okay, so that is the end of this week's show. We didn't read everything this week. What should we have been reading? Please tell us down in the comments
and let us know what you thought of this week's book, because we got Common Ground on Batman Superman, but Larfleeze we seem to be separated on. So what did you think?
Yeah. Also, you can tell us over on Twitter at Comic Book Show 1.
Indeed, you can. Don't forget to join us on Wednesday for the second of our semi-finals, where Batman will take on my boy, Cyclops.
And then on Friday, we are doing our best books of the month of June.
We will see you then. I'm going to get another beer.
Sure, water's not a better idea right now.
I just think any liquid, if I'm going to drink liquid, it may as well be beer.